Hey guys. Please don't forget to turn your cameras on. We're gonna go ahead and start. All right, well, today we'll carry on with the writing section. We were seeing the writing section. We said that in the writing, we have two different types of tasks. First thing, we get the integrated writing, which is the one we saw last week, where you have to read an article, listen to a lecture, and finally summarize both. And then we said that there's another task, and that's the one that we're going to be looking at today, which is the independent writing, the final one. Here you will have more time to write the essay. You will in fact have 30 minutes to do it, half an hour, which I think is enough. I would say that 20 minutes wasn't too much in the previous one, but I would say that I'm pretty happy that you have 30 minutes here. Now here in the independent writing, what you guys will have to do is write an essay by answering a question that they ask, okay? So they will ask you a question on a familiar topic. They will ask you a question on education, on lifestyle and health, maybe work life. Sometimes you have something a bit more general. Maybe you can have something like technology related, or something about the environment, or finance, short finance decisions. But basically, they will ask you a question of one of these topics. And you have to answer the question in 30 minutes. You have to write an essay answering the question in 30 minutes. Okay? So is this okay so far? Is this clear? Any questions? Okay. So now the types of questions that you can get, well, there are many types actually, but it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't worry too much about what type of question you get because you're not going to have to write an essay differently for any different type of question. So you may have something like, do you agree or disagree with the following statement? And then you have a statement that says something like, it's better to live alone than to live with a roommate. Or maybe you have, some people prefer to live alone and others prefer to live with a roommate. Which one do you prefer? Or which of the following options is most, or is better when living, I don't know, when going to college, living alone or living with a roommate? So as you can see, it doesn't matter what type of question you get. Either way, the question is the same. You need to choose from living with a roommate or living alone. So don't worry too much. It's usually, they give you some options from which you have to choose and write the essay. Okay. Now, the way that they score your essay, this is the same as I said for the integrated writing, so I'm not going to go through this in detail. But in general, an overview of how they score your essay will be content, which means how logical your essay is, whether you're actually answering this question or not, whether you're not being redundant, you're not repeating your ideas all over again, you're not running in circles. How clear it is, that's content. Organization and development, which means if you're not mixing up ideas, if you're organizing your essay in paragraphs, you're using transitions to switch ideas. And language used, which includes a range of things like grammar, vocabulary, word choice, sentence structure, variety, all all those rubrics that you can think of. Okay, any questions about this? Okay, and finally, before we get to write the essay, because we're gonna hurry up and try to write it today, I can give you some tips. So the first tip I will give is make sure that you always have a strong position. Okay, your essay needs to be an argumentative essay, and you need to have a really clear and strong position that you're gonna defend in your essay. So for example, if they say, do you agree or disagree with the statement that living alone is better than living with a roommate? So if you have this question, you need to make sure that you choose only one of the options. So you need to say, I do agree, and living alone is the best thing. And you need to tell me why, right? Because you can do your own stuff, you can organize your things better, you can do what you want and nobody's gonna be there telling you what to do. So you need to support that idea. Please don't ever try to compare and contrast and be like, all right, so living alone is a good option for some people when this is like that, but living with a roommate, that's also a pretty good option as well, because you can do this and other things. So both have disadvantages and advantages. Don't do it, okay? Don't do it like that. You need to choose only one of them and only support and defend that option. So have a clear, strong position. You don't necessarily have to be honest, even if that's not what you truly think. You can make up anything. You can make up a fact even. We're going to talk about that. So you can say, I read in the New York Times that I don't know, that people who live alone tend to be more creative than people who don't. Okay, so I'm completely making that up. It's probably not true, but it's totally okay to do it. You don't have to be honest. Your information doesn't have to be true or anything. So you can make anything up. Make sure that you always outline your essay. I'm going to show you today how to do it. This is quick. It shouldn't take you more than 3 minutes. And it's really necessary, okay? So that you don't end up running out of ideas, being repetitive or anything. You're going to see how important it is. Grammar is really key. I'm going to give you some ideas on how to use grammar and what grammar to use into tech, but grammar is important. And another thing I could say is remember that this is not a creative essay, right? So remember that they're not trying to measure your creativity or how interesting and catchy and fun your essay is. So don't worry about making something different or something creative. Just make sure that you show that you can communicate effectively your ideas. And finally, don't count the words, which is the same I said before. In this case, the ideal word number would be 250 to 300. So that's what the ETS says. But you can go over, you can write less. It's not a word limit, it's not a word requirement. One way to see it is write at least 4 paragraphs, 4 to 5, 4 lines each. Okay, I would try to write 4 or 5 paragraphs, 6 lines each, but the minimum would be 4 lines. Okay. Any questions about that before we get to write the essay? Okay, let's get started. I will give you some tips. I will show you some grammar. I will also give you some ideas on what phrases to use. But I think that we don't have that much time. So we're gonna hurry up and start writing the essay, and maybe next class we can make some corrections. But let's see. Okay, so here's the task that we're gonna be working on. Could anyone please read the question?
Can do it. Do you agree or disagree with the following statement? Sometimes it is better to be dishonest with people than to always tell the truth. Use specific reasons and details to support your answer.
Okay, thank you so much. So as you can see, the question is, do you think that it's better to be dishonest with people, or is it better to always tell the truth? So, okay, now let's see. We're gonna do first thing the outline, remember? So our outline is gonna be like a brainstorming of the ideas we're gonna use and the evidence we're gonna provide. So first thing you need to do is obviously think of what your position will be. So what would you guys say? What is easier to write about? Is it easier to say that it's better to be dishonest sometimes or to always tell the truth? What would you guys write about?
Maybe being honest.
Okay.
Being honest.
Okay, being honest. So being honest always, no matter what, 100% of the time. So that's our position. And then you need to think about 2 reasons supporting that position. Okay, you need to write down 2 arguments that back this up, that justify why being honest is always the better option. So can you guys think of one reason why being honest is better than lying sometimes? Why is that?
One common reason can be people can rely on you and contact you when they have problems.
Okay, that's perfect. So yes, people can rely on you, they can trust you, you become a reliable, maybe more respected person when you tell the truth. Okay, that's perfect. I like that idea. And then you need to think of one way to back that up. So if you're saying that people can rely on you, you need to show evidence supporting that. So you cannot just say something, you need to prove it. So the way to do it is you have some options, okay? So you can either give some examples. So you can, for example, tell a personal experience. So you can tell a story, a personal experience that you have gone through. So when you talk about a personal experience, you usually use the first person, you know. And the good thing about giving personal experiences is that it can allow you to show a lot of grammar, honestly. So my suggestion, try to at least you give one personal experience for one of the reasons, at least one. Okay, so for instance, I could say, so I don't know, maybe maybe you could say, so there was this time when I was lying to my mom about this, whatever it is. And finally, she learned the truth and she ended up not trusting me anymore. So now she cannot trust me. And I regret that I wasn't honest with her, because I feel like she doesn't feel like she can count on me. Okay, so I'm just telling a personal experience. I could be more specific if I want. Try to be more specific. Those are the details. So you can tell me what the lie was about, what exactly you said, how your mom found out, and all that. But I'm trying to illustrate this with a personal story. Okay. So the good thing is, as I was saying, you can use different tenses. Of course, you can just keep it in the simple present, but it's better if you show that grammar. So you could say, so there was this time when I lied to my mom, and she found out that I had been lying to her. So I don't know, she didn't trust me anymore. So I'm working with different tenses, different grammar. You can also just, if you don't feel so comfortable with using different tenses, you can keep it a general example. So you could say, for example, I don't know, at work, if you're constantly lying to your boss about the tasks that you have to get done, then there's gonna come a time when your boss doesn't trust anymore what you, your work or whatever. So I can just in general speak about what would happen if you lie to somebody in a situation. So when you do this, or when you lie to someone about this, then that person doesn't trust you anymore and you become an unreliable person. So I'm being general about it. I'm not telling a personal story. I'm just giving a general example. And another thing you guys can do is you can make up a fact and say something like what I was saying at the beginning, right? So you could say, in fact, some studies have shown that people who tell the truth tend to be more, tend to be liked more. Or maybe people who tell the truth are 10 times more reliable than people who don't. Or maybe I can say something different. Or I read in this magazine that this and this is like that. So I can make up something. I can make up a fact. Okay. So those are some ways in which you can evidence what you're saying. Is that okay? Is that clear? All right. So what can you guys say? How would you show this, or how would you illustrate that idea that people can rely on you and contact you when they have problems? Any examples or evidence? Maybe, Daniela, what would you say? What would you suggest we do?
When you are always honest with people, they look for you for advices because they know that you are going to tell what truly is better for them, even if it's not what they want to listen.
Okay. Okay. All right. So that's like a general idea. It's a general example. I wouldn't say it's such an, I mean, it's not that specific, right? It's also maybe part of the reason. So people can rely on you and they can ask you for advice because they know that you're gonna be honest with them. So when you're trying to give an example, try to be a bit more specific. So maybe, so what advice you're asking for? So maybe you could kind of create a hypothetical situation. So let's say that you are, I don't know, that you have, I don't know, yeah, well, maybe with a friend, right? Or with I don't know, with a partner or everything. So you can try to be a bit more specific and more detailed on what you mean. But we're gonna do that when we're writing the essay. For now, it's okay. Let's leave it there. And then you need to think of another reason to prove this. So why else is being honest the best option? Why should you always be honest? What's another reason?
Maybe because the truth is always known.
Okay, I like that. So yeah. So that's true. The truth always comes to light no matter what. At the end of the day, everybody learns the truth. And maybe you avoid getting in trouble when you tell the truth. Okay. And how would you illustrate that argument? What could be your example? What could it be? Laura, what would you say? What would you suggest?
I will go with a fact. It can be the University of Cambridge made a test where they ask students to lie, but the 90% of the students show a body sign that actually tell they were lying. So by that way, you can understand that truth is always known by a body language.
Okay. All right, I love that. That's great. That seems really elaborated and that seems really reliable as well. So yes, the truth is always known and you can use that to prove that. So there was this test, you were asking students to lie, and most of them showed some type of gesture movement that let people know that they were lying, which means that yes, no matter what they do, they can, you can tell that somebody's lying. I love that. Okay. All right, guys, so that's the outline. It doesn't really have to be that long, as long as you take some notes like maybe, okay, being honest, or you could just say agree or disagree in this case. And then you can say, okay, reliability, advice, want to hear maybe, and then truth is known, and then Cambridge tests, body movements or body language. And that's it. You're just taking some notes. You are allowed to, by the way, take a piece of paper with you or ask for a piece of paper and take notes there. So you're not going to take these notes in the, you're not going to type them where you're supposed to type the essay, but you can have these notes on a separate piece of paper. And that's the outline. And another thing I wanted to say is always make sure that the first and the second reason are different from each other. Because if they are similar, like maybe here you're saying people can rely on you, and then you're saying, second, you can always, I don't know, you can have better relationships, then it's sort of similar, it's kind of the same. So people can rely on you and have better relationships. They're both about the relationship that you have with people. So try to always make sure that they are different from each other. In this case, they are, which I like, so that you avoid being redundant. And it's time to write the essay. So, as I was saying, I'll give you some tips as we go. We'll try to write as much as we can. In next class, if we have some time, we can review it the way we did with the first integrated writing, and I can give you some tips. So let's start with the introduction. In the introduction, and I want to be real clear about this, there are two basic things that you need to have, which are obviously your position. So you need to state your position, which means answer the question. You need to say, I think that being honest is the best thing you can do, or is the right thing to do, always. And you need to have this transitional phrase, which is just saying something like, I will be exploring this topic in the following essay. Okay? Those are the two basic things you need. And those are the initial things that you're going to write. So when I say initial, I mean, at the beginning, I want you guys to write down this for your introduction and what I'm going to tell you for the body paragraphs as well. And make sure that you have the 4 paragraphs, you have the essay done. And once you're done with that, you can go back to the beginning, to the introduction or to the body paragraphs and add more things. And what you can add here is 2 things. So you can give a bit of context at the beginning or background information, and you can paraphrase or raise a question or paraphrase the question. Okay, so the 2 last elements are the ones that you need, definitely. And the 2 previous ones are ones that are optional. So they are optional. You don't necessarily have to have them. But if you want to do more, if you want to go farther with your intro, you can add. So we're going to see what this is about. Now, when I say context, you need to think of what the topic here is in general. So what would you guys say the topic is? What is this question about? What's going to be the topic of your essay?
Honesty.
Great, honesty, that's it. And once you think of what the topic is, you need to say something general about honesty, about the topic. So something that everybody knows, kind of like a fact. You don't have to yet explain what you think or your opinion, like honesty is better than lying. No, you just need to tell me something about honesty, something that really maybe shows the importance of the topic. Okay, so you can always go with the phrase, honesty is of paramount importance when or at, that's like the basic phrase. You could do it. So honesty is of paramount importance at any human dimension. So maybe you could start starting from work to daily life and relationships. You can say something like that. But you can also do something different if you want. You could say honesty is at the core of, or I don't know, it's one of the main values taught at home or when you're a kid or at school. Or honesty is at the core of every religion, from Christianism to Buddhism. So just say something general about honesty, something that shows the importance of the topic. So for example, if it's about traveling, so do you prefer to travel alone or with someone else? You can say, traveling has become one of the easiest ways to, not easy, maybe traveling has been becoming easier and easier as time goes by. Or traveling is one of the preferred options for vacations. So something general about the topic. What could you guys say?
Teacher, sorry. I have a question.
Yes, sorry.
Can we give a definition, maybe?
Yes, sure. That's a good idea as well. If you have a definition, you can sure use it. So what would you guys say here about honesty? The first sentence. Daniela, what would you say?
What part are we working on right now? It's the position.
I'm sorry? Come again?
Which part of the template are we working on right now?
Well, it's the first sentence. It's not, it doesn't have a phrase or something. This is for the second one. So it's just the first sentence of the introduction.
Honesty is very important in how we work on stronger relationships.
Okay, honesty is very important when we work.
To have stronger relationships.
Okay, that's cool. I like that. So honesty is very important to have stronger relationships. Okay, nice. And then after you're done with that sentence, it could be longer, it could be shorter, it's okay. You need to sort of paraphrase the question. And you're gonna, basically with this phrase here, might be a debatable topic. You're saying that the question is something that you can debate on, something debatable, right? So the question is something debatable. So you can have different perspectives about the question. That's what you're saying. And you need to find a way to paraphrase the question. So the question here is it better to sometimes be dishonest with people than to always tell them the truth? Right? That's the question. So you can always copy and paste and you can say, you know, I'm gonna write it here. You could say, whether being dishonest sometimes is better than always telling the truth, however, might be a debatable topic, right? So you're paraphrasing the question. Careful with the grammar. I don't want you guys to make a mistake there. Maybe if you want, you can check out this lesson, Embedded Questions, right? Because this is not a question, it's a sentence. It's in the form of a sentence, but it's a question, right? So careful with the grammar. But I'm just paraphrasing it. I'm saying, whether being dishonest sometimes is better than telling the truth might be a debatable topic. I can do it differently if you want. You know, you can say how, when, to what extent, in which situations. So you could say, for example, how honest one should be, however, may be a debatable topic, because that's what they're asking, right? How honest one should be. Or maybe when you are allowed to tell a lie, however, might be a debatable topic. Or if it's okay to sometimes tell a lie, however, might be a debatable topic. You know? So try to paraphrase the question. You don't necessarily have to copy and paste. You can paraphrase it, but it needs to be in the form of a sentence. So is that okay? Yeah. And then finally, the two necessary things, which are your position, the answer to the question, and the transitional phrase. So you can say the way I see it. Well, there are different ways in which you can start. I'm going to give you some ideas later here. But for now, you could say the way I see it, and here you just answer the question, right? We should always tell the truth, no matter what. So how would you guys say that in different words? Instead of telling the truth is better, what would you say? What can you say? Maybe, Laura, what would you say?
The way I see it, telling the truth will be the most important value of your life, of someone's life, maybe.
Or someone's. Okay, I like that. So telling the truth will be the most important value of someone's life. That's okay. Right now we're taking pieces of, ideas from everyone. But when you're writing your essay, try not to repeat so many words or phrases, because they're going to be counting the number of words and phrases you repeat. And that's less points for vocabulary. So maybe you can find another way. Maybe you can say being straightforward or being sincere, or I don't know, look for synonyms. But it's okay for now. Let's leave it there. And then you have the transitional phrase for two, in this case, two reasons that I will be exploring in the following days. Okay, so again, if you see this, we can cut this part, leave it out, and it works, all right? And I know that it seems short for an introduction, but it's okay. You can get a good score. You can get a perfect score with an introduction like this, and because it's not that important. The most important part is going to be your body paragraphs. So at the beginning, you just need this, the position and the transitional phrase. And then if you have extra time, you can add that. Okay. So any questions as for the introduction? Let me go here. All right. Now for the body paragraphs, again, I'm going to say the same. The two basic things that you need to make sure you have, especially if you're not so good with time. Obviously, you need to give the reason, provide the reason, the argument, and you need to explain the evidence or show the evidence. And that's the reason and the evidence. But if you want and you have more time, you can add an explanatory sentence here. Only one sentence. The evidence is usually more than one sentence, so I would say two sentences at least. The reason tends to be one sentence. And then you can have a closing idea, okay, which could be one sentence as well. So those are optional. The explanatory sentence and the closing idea or the closing statement are optional. I'm gonna leave the other ones in. Okay. All right, guys. So let's see what I mean with that. So first thing, you need to introduce the reason, right? You need to explain what you have thought of in the outline, which in this case is that people can rely on you and reach out when they have problems. So what do you guys want to say? What would you say here for that idea? Maybe, Camila, what would you say?
To start, my first statement will be that people can rely on you. And no, yes. And I don't know if I have to put all the idea. Okay, yes, all the idea, and then the
Yes, try to maybe,
example, right?
yes.
Okay, so people can rely on you and contact you when they have problems.
Okay. And contact you when they have problems. Okay, that's great. Maybe we can turn it into a conditional sentence so that we show the idea, how that the idea is related to this, right? To our, so when you're honest, maybe people can rely on you. Yeah. Okay. And contact you when they have problems. That's nice. That's your idea. And then we need this explanatory sentence, right? Which means tell me a bit more. So tell me why people rely on you, or you can also work with a fact if you want there before the example. In this case, I really liked what you guys said here, you know, that they can ask you for advice because they know that you're going to tell them what's better for them, not necessarily what they want to hear. So maybe we can work with that as the explanatory sentence, because it's not necessarily an example. It isn't specific. We're talking about people in general, how they ask you for advice in general. So when it's general, it's not an example. So I like this idea. Can anybody maybe paraphrase it so that we can write it down? Maybe Daniela, what would you say?
In my personal experience, there's a friend of mine that is completely honest, and when I have a big problem, I used to call her because I know she's gonna tell me what's the best for me, even if there is not what I want to hear.
Okay, all right. So you went right with the example. I like that. So I was saying the explanatory sentence before the example, but it's okay. We are done with this now. So there is a friend of mine that's completely honest, and whenever I have a big problem, maybe I tend to, right? I tend to call her, or I am used to call her, because I know she is going to tell me what's best for me, even if it's not what I want to hear. Okay, I like that. Okay, my advice. I love this, you know, it's in the simple present. It is a bit simple, but it's okay. It's perfectly fine if you feel like you really don't want to use other tenses and you don't want to make mistakes. If you feel like you haven't achieved that level yet, and you're like, whenever I use the past tense, I tend to make more mistakes, so maybe I just stick to the present, then it's okay. It's better to just use what you know instead of trying to use something that you're not so confident with and making mistakes. But on the other hand, if you feel like you're an advanced student already, you really want to show your grammar, maybe you can even be more specific, try to tell a story in the past. So you could say, I had a friend when I was in college that was completely honest. And there was one time when I had a problem with, I don't know, where I had this problem, you make something up. Maybe I needed to go to some place, or I didn't know who to live with, whether my mom or my dad. And I called her because I knew that she was going to tell me what was best for me, even if it wasn't what I wanted to hear, right? So you can use the past tense, the simple past, and you can take the chance to use other tenses as well. You know, you could say, I don't know, maybe you could say, I had a big problem since I don't know, I had made a terrible mistake, right? So I'm saying I had made, and I'm using the past perfect there. So you can use that chance to use different tenses if you want to show the grammar. Okay, but it's totally okay if you stick to the present, if you feel like you're gonna make more mistakes. You know what I mean? Is that okay? Okay. Yep. Okay. So you could do it both ways, simple present or tell a story from a single experience in the past. I wanted to say before this, the optional explanatory sentence, which as I'm saying is completely optional, you can add something else. So you can explain this a bit more. So you can say, in fact, and maybe tell me something about, I don't know, people that give advice, how they have to be honest, or how people tend to value honesty and trust somebody that they know as, or that they consider honest. So what can you guys say to explain this idea a bit more? Any thoughts? Laura, what would you say?
Can be like, in fact, the value of honesty is the base of having stronger relationships on your life.
Okay.
It's actually most of the same that I repeated, but what I'm trying to do is connect the fact that it's actually people can rely on you, so that is the relationship you can make.
Okay, sure. So, okay, you can also use other types of connectors. You know, instead of in fact, you could say, therefore, the values of honesty will enable you to have, maybe instead of stronger, to have, I don't know, to work on your relationships or on your social life, maybe. So yes, you can look for ways to paraphrase. But that's cool. Let's leave it there for now. And that's the explanatory sentence. And then you have the example. So my personal experience plainly illustrates this reality. You tell the story of a friend that's honest and you trust. And finally, you can have this closing idea, which is not necessary, but you can do it. So what you're gonna do in that closing idea is show how this example here of your friend has taught you that, you know, has made you think this, that when you're honest, people can rely on you. So how that example is connected to your idea. So how this friend of yours taught you that it's important that people rely on you. Okay, so you could say something like, this way, or I don't know, because of this friend of mine, I've learned that, you know, or this is why, and go on. In case you had a past experience using the past tense and about a single experience, you can use the third conditional there as well. So it's a great chance to show the grammar. You can just memorize the structure. So if you're saying, there was a friend of mine in college that was honest, that I knew was honest, and I could trust. And when I had this particular problem, I called her and she told me what I needed to hear, not what I wanted to hear. And then you can use the third conditional. You know, you can say, so if my friend hadn't been honest with me or hadn't been straightforward, I don't know, would have never, I don't know. I never would have gone to her anymore, you know? So if my friend hadn't been honest with me, I wouldn't have trusted her anymore. So, or I would have, maybe I would have lost that friendship or something like that, you know? So yeah, you can basically tell me what could have happened in case your friend hadn't been honest with you. You can even make an inversion here and say, you know, hadn't my friend been honest with me, this thing would have happened. And you're showing even more grammar. So I know it might be a bit, the grammar part may be a bit tricky right now, but I'll probably explain this next class, right? For now, just know that that's another way to do it as well. If you have a past experience, you can use the third conditional as your closing idea and say, okay, so if this person hadn't been honest with me, I would have lost this friendship. So, or I wouldn't have had such a strong relationship with her, okay? So something like that, that's another way. So how would you guys close this idea? How would you show me that this example is the basis for this thought or for this other option? What would you say to close the paragraph? Maybe Camila?
Could be, so that's why our relationship it's better through the years.
Okay. Maybe our relationship has gotten better
Yes.
through the years. Awesome, I like that. Okay, I love this sentence. So that's why our relationship has gotten better and better through the years. Okay, and that's your paragraph. That's your body paragraph. As you can see, you have 5 lines here. You have the introduction to your reason. You have the explanation, the example, and then you have the final closing statement. I would say maybe in the example, you can, divide the sentence because it's a bit too long. It sounds a bit like speaking. So there's a friend of mine, and but we can do those corrections later, right? When I use some tips. But for now, it's okay. I just want you to know the structure. So you have the reason, the explanation, the example, and the closing idea. Is that okay? Do you have questions? Okay. The second body paragraph is going to be exactly the same as it was here. Like, you're going to have the same things. So you're going to have the reason, the explanation, the example, and the closing idea. It's going to be exactly the same. If you want to make it a bit different, if here you have worked with a personal example, here you're going to add a fact the way we planned. Or maybe you can also change this. So you can have explanatory sentence first and then say, therefore, the reason. Maybe you could say, all right, like it will be something like this, right? I think here we did the opposite, because the reason for me, it will be that you have stronger relationships. That's the main point. And then the explanation is that people can rely on you and reach out when they have problems. Wouldn't you say? I think that we did the opposite, right? So you could say, when you're honest with people, they can rely on you, reach out. Therefore, honesty is the basis of having strong relationships. So we did the opposite, and you can do that too. So the explanatory sentence can go first, and then you have the main reason, or you can do it the other way. So you can say, when you're honest, you have stronger relationships in your life. In fact, people can rely on you and reach out when they have problems and ask for advice. So it doesn't matter the order. So you're gonna do the same here, the same exact elements, and that's gonna be your second body paragraph. So is that okay? Any questions so far? All right. Then finally, for the conclusion, in the conclusion, first thing I wanted to say is you cannot have anything new. So the conclusion is just supposed to be a summary of everything that you've mentioned so far. Okay, you can never include a new idea. So you can, in the conclusion, you cannot try to tell me something different. Maybe also, when you're honest, you get away from trouble. All right, that's not the way to do it. You can only summarize anything that you've mentioned so far. You cannot include anything new. So what we're gonna do in the conclusion is first thing, summarize the reasons. So we're gonna summarize both reasons that we have provided. And then we're gonna restate our position. So basically what we said in the introduction. It's a summary of the intro and the two body parts. And you can do it like this. You can say, in short, in conclusion, having seen that, which means that, okay, we have seen that. And here you need to summarize both reasons. So having seen that, honesty, I don't know, improves relationships. And the other one, which is the truth is always known. I am strongly convinced that, and then you paraphrase your position, right? I'm strongly convinced that the right thing to do, no matter the circumstance or regardless of the circumstance or the situation, is to be honest. Okay? So you summarize everything you've said so far. So how would you guys summarize the two reasons? How would you paraphrase those reasons? What would you say, Laura?
In short, having seen that honesty help on social relationships and will always be I get lost on the second one. Sorry.
Will always be.
And that will always be known.
Good.
I'm strongly convinced that
And then, Camila, how would you paraphrase? Okay. Camila, how would you paraphrase this?
That both reasons show is fact.
This fact?
Yes.
Okay, but what fact? I think it's really important that you restate your position. So you need to actually paraphrase. Once again, tell me, shows that honesty, or well, not honesty, more too much. Maybe that the truth will always win out. Maybe. But try to say something like that.
Okay. Show the importance of honesty.
Nice. All right. So in short, having seen that honesty helps both in helps in social relationships, and will always be known. Strongly convinced that both reasons show the importance of honesty. Okay. So then that's great. As you can see, the conclusion doesn't have to be that long. It's the last thing you do. I will suggest that you guys do a conclusion. It's not like in the integrated writing where you can skip it. It is important that you do a conclusion, but it doesn't have to be that long. The same as in the intro, right? It's perfectly fine if it's just like this. Don't worry too much. That was one of the tips, right? Don't worry about the intro and conclusion. The most important part are the body paragraphs, because this is how you explain what you mean. They're gonna know what you want to say, but what they want to look for is how you explain and how you justify it. And well, then you have the grammar and all that. So, all right. So next week we're gonna be reading this, rereading it, and I'll tell you ways to improve it. So, but for now, do you have any questions or comments? everything okay? Okay, guys.
Yes.
Then please, before you go, I'm gonna send you the survey. Today we're gonna be filling out two. I think every Thursday we're gonna have to fill out two. I received some instructions from Ruth, and we're gonna have to do both the daily survey and one more survey, which is satisfaction survey. So I'm gonna send both of them, but you need to fill them out one by one. So if you could please, okay, thank you. I got this one, and I'll send you the other one now. Okay, guys. So have a great weekend. Happy New Year.
Thank you, teacher. Happy New Year too.
Yes, too.
Bye
Bye.
bye. Take care.